One of the most frequently asked questions in Google is how can I avoid probate in Florida? I'm Matt Weidner. I've been practicing more than 25 years. I can answer your question about how can you avoid probate. Easy answer is meet with an experienced estate practitioner. You can try and do it yourself. If you only got a couple of assets, house, cars, that sort of thing, yeah, you can do it. But the reality is for most people, got any amount of money, you need to meet with an attorney at the front end. Estate planning's relatively inexpensive, couple $1,000 at most. But if you're looking to avoid probate, you got to spend that money at the front end. Now, people try to cheap out the smarty pants kid or uncle that seems to know something is going to convince them to do an online will or an online trust. And oftentimes it's trying to cheap out it that way, not doing estate planning. That really ends up costing a whole lot of money. So here, mom and dad or the kids are trying to avoid probate, trying to save money. And instead of getting proper advice in estate planning, they instead try to go online or try to do something tricky and crafty. And quite frankly, the estates where I've seen lawyers make lots and lots of money, one of the things they have in common is that somebody in the mix there has tried to cheap out or not do it correctly. And quite frankly, one of the most common ways is when they try and do one of these online wills. Now, there are ways you can do online wills. They're just fine, and it'll pass muster. It'll go through the court. But you can also screw them up really easily. And there are forms online right now. I've been looking at them in these form services that do not explain how to do it correctly to prevent the will from being thrown out. But the things you need to talk about are payable on death, transfer on death on financial accounts, joint tenants on property, joint tenants on cars and stuff like that. Again, if you got relatively small assets, the estate planning for an attorney should be relatively inexpensive. But when you're dealing with a couple $1,000,000 or something like that, you got to spend the money to have the estate planning done correctly. Another big piece of advice. You got to do estate planning when you're getting into the golden years for sure. But one of the things people don't do enough is update that planning as things change. Make money, lose money, get married, buy another house, do something like that. At every one of those milestones in life, got to meet with the attorney, check it out, and make sure it's still consistent with what the estate plan is. That's how you can avoid probate in Florida.